Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna. Start with some prayers with Jai Radha Madhava. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Gopi Janavallabha Girivaradhari Jaya Gopi Janavallabha Girivaradhari Gopi Janavallabha Girivaradhari Jaya Gopi Janavallabha Girivaradhari Yamunati Yashodhanandana Vraja Janaranjana Yashodhanandan Vraja Janaranjana Yashodhanandana Vraja Janaranjana Yamunatira Vanachari Yamunatira Vanachari Yamunatira Vanachari Yamunatira Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Hare Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna and Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Jaya Radha, Radhanath Radha, Radhanath Radhe, Jaya Radha. Jaya Radha, Radhanath Radha, Radhanath Radhe, Jaya Radha, Radhanath Radha, Radhanath. Jaya Radhe, Jaya Radhe, Jaya Radhe, Jaya Shri Radhe, Jaya Radhe, Jaya Radhe, Jaya Radhe, Jaya Shri Radhe, Jaya Prabhupada, 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 Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada, 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 Jaya Prabhupada, Nittai Gaur Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Nittai Gaur Hari Bol, Nittai Gaur Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Nittai Gaur Hari Bol. Their Lordship Shri Shri Radha Radhanath Ki Jai, Srimad Mahaprabhu Ki Jai, Shri Giriraj Govardhan Ki Jai, Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai, Gaur Premanande Hari Hari Bo. Hare Krishna. Thank you all for being here this morning. Srimad Bhagavatam class, and I pray that we'd be able to speak something of worth where it will be in honor of Srila Prabhupada and our acharyas and pleasing to the devotees. I pray for your blessings. Please repeat before we start. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. So this morning we are reading from Srimad Bhagavatam. It's the 4th canto and chapter 25, text 28. Tvamrir bhavani asyata vagramapatim. Tvamrir bhavani asyata vagramapatim. Vichinvati kim munivadrahavane. Twadangri kampata samasta kamam. Twadangri kamapad samasam kamam. Kwa Padma Kosha Patita Karagat. Patita Karagat. Tvam Ri Bhavani Asyata Vagramapatim. Tvam Ri Bhavani Asyata Vagramapatim. Vichinvati Kim Munivadrahavane. Tvad Agri Kamapat Samasta Kamam. Tvad Angri Kamapat Samastam Kamam. Kwa Padma Kosha Patit Karagat. Tvam Ri Bhavani Asyata Vagramapathim. Tvam Ri Bhavani Asyata Vagramapathim. Vichinvati Kim Munivad Rahavane. Tvad Agri Kamarpa Samasta Kamam. Tvad Agri Kamapat Samasta. Kwa Padma Kosha Patita Karagat. Proves. Twamri Bhavani Asyata Vagramapatim. Vichinvati Kimuri Vadharahovane. Kamapat Samasta Kamamam. Kwa Padma Kosha Patita Karagrat. Twamri Bhavani Asyata Vagramapatim. Vichinvati Kimuni Vadarahovane. Twadagri Kamapat Samasta Kamam. Kwa Padma Kosha Patita Ka Prat. Thank you. We will read our word for word. Let me read the translation first by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. And okay, let's go with our transliteration first. Tvam, you, Ri, shyness, Bhavani, the wife of Lord Shiva, Asi, Atha, Radha, Vak, Saraswati, the goddess of learning, Rama, the goddess of fortune, Patim, husband, Vichinvati, searching after, thinking of, Kim, are you, Munivat, like a sage, Raha, in this lonely place, Vane, in the forest, Tvat Angri, your feet, Kama, desiring, Apata, achieved, Samasta, all, Kamam, desirable things. Kwa, where is, Padma Kosha, the lotus flower, Patita, fallen, Kara, of the hand, Agrat, from the front portion or palm. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami, Srila Prabhupada. Translation. My dear beautiful girl, you are exactly like the goddess of fortune, or the wife of Lord Shiva, or the goddess of learning, the wife of Lord Brahma. Although you must be one of them, I see that you are loitering in this forest. Indeed, you are as silent as the great sages. Is it that you are searching after your own husband? Whoever your husband may be, simply by understanding that you are so faithful to him, he will come to possess all opulences. I think you must be the goddess of fortune. But I do not see the lotus flower in your hand, therefore I am asking you where you have thrown that lotus. Purport by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. Everyone thinks that his intelligence is perfect. Sometimes one employs his intelligence in the worship of Uma, the wife of Lord Shiva, in order to obtain a beautiful wife. Sometimes when one wants to become as learned as Lord Brahma, he employs his intelligence in the worship of the goddess of learning, Saraswati. Sometimes when one wishes to become as opulent as Lord Vishnu, he worships the goddess of fortune, Lakshmi. In this verse, all these inquiries are made by King Puranjan, the living entity who is bewildered and does not know how to employ his intelligence. Intelligence should be employed in the service of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. As soon as one uses his intelligence in this way, the goddess of fortune automatically becomes favorable to him. The goddess of fortune, Lakshmi, never remains without her husband. Lord Vishnu, consequently, when one worships Lord Vishnu, he automatically obtains the favor of the goddess of fortune. One should not, like Ravana, worship the goddess of fortune alone, for she cannot remain long without her husband. Thus her name is Chanchala, or restless. In this verse, it is clear that Puranjan is representing our intelligence while he is talking to this girl. He not only appreciated the shyness of the girl, but actually became more and more attracted by the shyness, that shyness. He was actually thinking of becoming a husband and consequently was asking her whether she was thinking of her prospective husband or whether she was married. This is the example of bhoga icha, the desire for enjoyment. One who is attracted by such desires becomes conditioned in this material world, and one who is not so attracted attains liberation. King Puranjana was appreciating the beauty of the girl as if she was a goddess of fortune, but at the same time he was careful to understand that the goddess of fortune cannot be enjoyed by anyone except Lord Vishnu. Since he doubted whether the girl was the goddess of fortune, he inquired about the lotus flower she was not holding. The material world is also the goddess of fortune because the material energy works under the direction of Vishnu as stated in the Bhagavad Gita. Maya dakshena prakrit suyate sa charchanam. The material world cannot be enjoyed by any living entity. If one so desires to enjoy it, he immediately becomes a demon like Ravan, Hiranyakashipu or Kamsa. Because Ravana wanted to enjoy the goddess of fortune, Sita Devi, he was vanquished with all his family, wealth and opulence. One can, however, enjoy that Maya bestowed upon the living entity by Lord Vishnu. The satisfaction of one's senses and desires means enjoying Maya, not the goddess of fortune. Translation once again. My dear beautiful girl, you are exactly like the goddess of fortune or the wife of Lord Shiva, or the goddess of learning, the wife of Lord Brahma. Although you must be one of them, I see that you are loitering in this forest. Indeed, you are as silent as the great sages. Is it that you are searching after your own husband? Whoever your husband may be, simply by understanding that you are so faithful to him, he will come to possess all opulences. I think you must be the goddess of fortune, but I do not see the lotus flower in your hand. Therefore, I am asking you, where have you thrown that lotus? Om Jnana Timirandasya Gyananjana Salakaya Chakchurum Militam Jaina Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha. Shri Chaitanya Manobhlistam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupam Kadammayam Dadati Swapadantikam. Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Padakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunatan Vitam Tam Sajivam Sarvaitam Sarvadhutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakanvitamscha. He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namastute Tapta Kanchana Gaurange Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sutideve Pranamami Hari Priye Vancha Kalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhu Bevacha Patitanan Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Srivasadi Shri Gaura Bhaktavinda. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Ma Om Vishnupadaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale Srimati Bhaktivedanta Swamiti Namine Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Prachadine Vishesha Sunyavadi Paskatya Deshatarine. Thank you so much for being here this morning, and we're continuing our discussion on this story, right? And stories are such that everybody likes a good story. I think if it was presented by Narada Muni as fact, these are the facts, this is how you should live your life, people do not take well to those kind of things. But if I have to sit here and share a story with you, it's very interesting. So this story is, as we've been discussing, about the king, and very nicely put that already we understand that he is walking about, he's already traveled, and he's traveling throughout the world, and he went to a city, and it's the beautiful southern side of the Himalayas. There's a lake, we've set the scene, and now he's met this beautiful lady, and he's inquiring about her to say, who are you, because you are so beautiful, right? And outside of the city, there's this beautiful garden. And that garden, because the landscape is so good, it's giving pleasure to the senses. So you can actually think, I'm just sitting here and thinking, if we're talking about landscape, look around our beautiful garden at Sri Sri Radha Radhanath, right? So if we have to think about that, and I know we are one of the iconic tourist attraction in South Africa, and 45 years ago, when the architects were actually thinking about this temple, imagine having that vision for such a beautiful landscape. So when this temple was actually built with that particular vision, and I know that we've seen some pictures from aerial view, now it's so easy when there's Google Maps and AI, that you are able to see, the beauty of these gardens. Imagine the beauty that comes through of this particular garden as presented here in the Srimad Bhagavatam. We cannot even fathom that beauty. Now comes this beautiful girl, and the king, of course, he's looking around and he says, oh my, who are you? Are you perhaps this Saraswati? Are you perhaps, but where is your lotus flower? And I love this line because here, the translation at the end, it says, I think you must be the goddess of fortune, but I do not see the lotus flower in your hand. Therefore, I am asking you, where have you thrown that lotus? Right? And that word is so powerful. Because would you believe that the goddess of fortune, as we know and understand and appreciate holding that lotus flower, would she just throw it away? But that is the nature of this material world, where the mind is such that, things come and go. It's scattered. It's like these thoughts are fleeting. So here the girl is actually presented by Narada Muni in the story of King Puranjan. And, we may think now we're moving into a romantic novel. We are moving into, but Srimad Bhagavatam is far from that. Narada Muni, being a brahmachari, he's not bothered about any romance. But it is presented in such way, this metaphor is a young girl and she is the intelligence. It is described earlier in the earlier verses that she is accompanied by 11 bodyguards, and this being the 10 senses and the mind. And the bodyguards are also accompanied by other girls, and these girls are just like desires. Their lordships, Shri Shri Radha Radhanath ki jai, Srimad Mahaprabhu ki jai, Giriraj Govardhan ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai. And these girls are just like desires, and in every birth that we have, because we are in this material realm, we all have desires. Whether it's desire for enjoyment at some level, whether there's more opulence and wealth, but the material nature is such that we have these desires. Ultimately, the soul is pure, but because of the subtle body, we have this ego attached that covers, that mirrors the purity of the soul. That soul is everlasting, right? We identify as the soul within the body. However, when we now look at the soul being enveloped by our body of material desires, there is that blurred lines. We become conditioned to become a part of the world, yet we're not, or we shouldn't be. So as the king is walking along and he's being attracted by these desires of entanglement, he's inquiring about who are you? And some very important lessons by this metaphor, because when the king Puranjan, is actually meeting this young girl, she's very beautiful, but His Holiness Radhanath Swami, and I remember this so well, he explained the beauty that he found, and he said that the most attractive woman that he has seen was a leper. And he mentions a very, very beautiful story of real life. And he talks about a beautiful woman. And this is, he explains that he was passing through a leprosy colony. And there was lots of people who wanted money from him. And he had nothing at that time. They pulled him out for about half an hour. And he explains how they accosted him. And they were harassing him violently for money. They were very aggressive for about half an hour. And he had nothing to give them. So finally, they let him go. And there comes a very old leper woman. And Radhanath Swami Maharaj, he describes that she had no teeth. Her toes were cut off, her fingers, she was fingerless. And possibly, he said, if you looked at her, she presented as one of the ugliest women. However, she looked at him with such motherly eyes, with such beautiful affection. And she saw what he went through, and she felt sorry for him. And what Radhanath Maharaj said, that because of this affectionate glance, although she presented materially as being this leper woman going through the suffering in this material world, he saw her as the most beautiful woman he has ever seen. And based on this, she conquered his heart. And what did he do? He put his head under her hands and he sought her blessings. And at that time, Radhanath Maharaj was thinking that this woman indeed has captured my heart. Physically, she was so deformed. She was a leper. Yet, in the eyes of Maharaj, she was the most beautiful woman. And Radhanath Swami also explains that he comes from the American culture, where, advertising and media is there, the perfect fit and the perfect person we see being advertised. Like this beautiful lady that's in the garden here as described in Srimad Bhagavatam. But it's all based on our perspective and our perception of what we see through our vision. So if we have a material vision, we will see that is the most beautiful, attractive woman, and we would seek that entanglement. But if we see that woman through the eyes of our mother, our sister, and such, then we will move away from the entanglement. And this entanglement here is also very important, because when we look at such material desires as presented here, it starts off with the conversation, right? We see that with young girls and boys. How are you? Now it's so easy. You send a text message. You don't have to be in a beautiful garden space, right? So now you start this conversation. This entanglement starts with just asking somebody how you are. Just here, as this conversation is going now, it's going dating back to Srimad Bhagavatam to say, who are you? Are you searching for your husband? So this conversation is starting. And he is the king, Puranjan, is trying to gain more information from her, trying to get her attention. And there's this, he is now trying to find out more. However, here's the thing, the mind becomes so engrossed in this form of attraction. I want to allure this person. I want to get to know more. And once we get into that mode of material desire, it is also described that when we get into this, this sense gratification mode, it's a sliding slope. That's what it is. There's no moderation when it comes to sense gratification. You could say, okay, I'll talk to this person, I'll find out more about them. But once that entanglement comes in, what happens? That person overpowers your mind, right? You start thinking about the conversation. Say, when am I going to see the person? Whatever it may be, any form of sense gratification. If you also look at statistics, which is very interesting, during the pandemic, 6 years ago, when there was a lockdown around the world, what was found to be something that was really sought after? Anybody could share? Alcohol and cigarettes. When that lockdown was, if you remember, all of that had to be stopped. There was the different levels, level 5, level 4. And people were becoming so desperate for these drugs, for these cigarettes, for alcohol. And we'd see that there were lobbies, there were petitions to the government to say, please open up this facility so people can buy alcohol between this period of time. What is it telling us? That once you get entangled with any form of sense gratification, it becomes so difficult to detach from there. So in life we say do things in moderation. And Srila Prabhupada explains moderation is a very, very thin line. There's no moderation in sense gratification. Moderation in sleep, so you can wake up fresh for your devotional service and be present. Moderation when you're eating, so you can be healthy and well for your devotional service. Is there any room for moderation for sense gratification? No. Because once you get entangled, it's that sliding slope. You're chasing the high. That's what it is. You're chasing the high when it comes to alcoholism, when it comes to drugs. Yesterday, actually, it was a headline in the newspaper, right here in Durban, to say girls are now drug peddlers, right, at local schools within our community. Girls are now being used as runners to sell drugs. So when it comes to this sort of sense gratification, we can see that the mind and the intelligence fight. And what happens when you so are engrossed in it, the mind takes over. So we are not understanding that our true form or our true identity is devotional service. So here we can picture this illusion of the garden. It's the illusion of this beautiful girl. And King Puranjan is asking, but we also know Srila Prabhupada is explaining very clearly here, very beautifully, to say that consequently, when one worships Lord Vishnu, he automatically obtains the favor of the goddess of fortune. One should not, like Ravana, worship the goddess of fortune alone, for she cannot remain long without her husband. So together they come as partners, if we want to call it loosely. You cannot enjoy Sita Devi alone. We've seen the consequence. And today being the start of Gita week, Ramayan week as well. Right? And we understand the pastime of Lord Ram. And we see that although Ravan actually wanted Sita Devi, he wasn't able to have her. He had the illusion. And even that, he wasn't even able to touch her because of her purity. Right? And what happened to these demons as consequences? So here too, we find that when we are wanting to be, we are thinking of enjoying the material energy, we will become like these demons of Ravana. Hiranyakashipu, another example that's presented here. Kamsa, another example. And what happens? They're meditating on how they can go against the path of devotion. So their lives are consumed by how can we go apart, how can we move away, how can we conquer the senses, how can we become more attached to materialism. And then that sliding scale comes about to say, yes, I want more of this, and we chase that golden pot. So there's so much of suffering that is described in the 5th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam. And one of the first things that comes across there when Parikshit Maharaj hears about the suffering as presented in the 5th canto, it's how can we be free from all of this? How can we be free? Because it is described deeply in great detail. For every action, there is a reaction. Right? We know that, very simply put. So when we read those descriptions of sense enjoyment, what happens after? When we're so entangled in this material world. So the desires in the heart are so strong, we meditate. Instead of using our intelligence in devotional service, we're using that mind that's playing games with us to see how can we better win in this world where we can't win. Because for every joy or happy moment, how many sad moments do we have with it? Just think about it. For everything that makes us so happy, we have 2 hours of happiness, the rest of the day, I'm just giving you a simple example. But for every happiness, it's attached to sadness. It is also said that you cannot appreciate happy times if you haven't experienced sadness. You cannot appreciate sadness if you haven't appreciated happiness. But both are fleeting. In this material world, the desires are there. And what happens? What happens? Eventually, that high, we come down, we run for that sense gratification again for the next high. But then we learn the practical component as it is presented in Bhagavad Gita, that devotional service is the ultimate. So ultimately, we have the worship of the deity that's given to us. But what is prescribed for us to move away from the sense gratification and this material entanglement? Mahaprabhu has said the holy name in this age is the most important. So chanting of the holy name is so important. And a simple example, even if somebody hears the Hare Krishna Mahamantra, there's so much benefit. And we know of this example, which I'll reshare, that Srila Prabhupada actually, when devotees in the US said to him, there's so much, well, there was an article of negative commentary on the Hare Krishnas. They went to Prabhupada really distraught. And they said, yes, but you know, this is the article, what shall we do? And Srila Prabhupada said, okay, how many times was the word Hare Krishna in that article? And they said, well, 10 times, Prabhupada. And he says, well, how many times was this newspaper printed? Right? And Prabhupada did the maths. And he said, well, that many times people have heard Hare Krishna, so let it go. Prabhupada always looked at the benefit of the Mahamantra. Another time in India, devotees went to Srila Prabhupada and there was a movie, that Bollywood movie that was released, Dhammaradam. I don't know if you remember that movie, back in the day, Dhammaradam. And they said, Prabhupada, here is this movie where devotees of the Hare Krishnas are presented in a negative light. Shall we go to court about this, take this producer on? And Prabhupada said, well, everybody's going to be hearing the Mahamantra. Let it go and it will pass. So Srila Prabhupada always looked at how people can benefit from this Mahamantra, the holy name. And this is actually what we need to actually give off, that we understand the temporary condition of this life, the nature of our life. It is our duty to present this holy name to others. So here, intelligence must be devotional intelligence. When we look at the metaphor as presented in this particular verse, the girl being the intelligence is likened to the intelligence. But you know, Puranjan there, in this metaphor, he's the conditioned soul. This girl who's so attractive, she's the intelligence. Then there's the attraction to this girl. The soul is attempting to enjoy, but this conversation is the beginning of the attachment, right? Or the entanglement that's going to come. But with material intelligence, we say, how can we enjoy this world? Material intelligence, we try to enjoy more and more. But when it comes to spiritual intelligence, we understand how can we serve. And in Bhagavad Gita, it is presented to us in chapter 10, verse 10, where there's the description of Buddhi Yoga, that Krishna gives us the ultimate intelligence of devotional intelligence, of spiritual intelligence. So with material intelligence here, when we look at the metaphors presented, we calculate how can we gain something that's going to make us happy. But again, as we saying, this happiness is temporary happiness. We seek comfort, we seek luxury, right? And what happens? We develop this false ego. I'm better than you. I can do things better than you, right? There's that competition. The other day we were on a podcast, and one of the questions that came about, especially when it's conflict amongst people in leadership, right? How do you actually look at, rather than competing, but serving together? And that was such an interesting question, because I felt that, you know, whatever we do, even in devotional service, there's that level of, many are not on that level to say we are completely detached from the outcome. The ego takes over sometime or the other. But then there's that that competition, there's that internal competition. And it is described that when it's spiritual, it's wonderful, like the Srila Prabhupada book marathon. When there's that spiritual competition, it's wonderful which book distribution team is going to do better. And it's all for that higher purpose. It's for that end goal, right? But when it becomes the I, and the ego takes over, then it becomes very dangerous. Because we are so attached to our material identity that we forget our higher purpose. And oftentimes we can easily be swept into that condition. That condition becomes so easy. Why? Because we are surrounded by the elements of material nature. We are a part of this world, but it's difficult, right? Because we're a part of daily life. How do we elevate ourselves to say, yes, I'm physically here, but I'm not meant to be here? It's a very difficult balance. It's a very, very difficult balance. And therefore, the more we depend on the holy name, the more power and strength we receive, that our intelligence becomes sharp and our mind becomes a little bit dull in a sense where we are not chasing that sense gratification. Where our intelligence is now formed, the spiritual intelligence of the Buddhi Yoga, now we are seeking truth. We are spending time like this in Sangha with more people, like-minded people. We are choosing service over pleasure. And pleasure can be so easy. You know what? I'll go out, I'll go to the movies, I'll do this, I'll do that. Why should I peel or go down to the Food for Life kitchen and sit with this bags of beans to clean for the Festival of Chariots? Why should I do that? I can spend my weekend doing something else. I worked so hard this week. I need to have downtime. Correct? You think that? I need my time out. Why should I do this? But when you are seeking the higher truth, you will find that peeling, that tomato, blending it, peeling those potatoes, become pleasurable to you. That will become your time out because you have now identified to say, that is what gives me pleasure. You are telling yourself, this devotional service means a lot to me. Right? So we also understand when we have spiritual intelligence, what is true and what is fake. And in this illusion here, in this translation where, it is being asked here to say, I think you must be the goddess of fortune, but I do not see the lotus flower in your hand. Therefore, I am asking you, where have you thrown that lotus? So there's some sort of here, what is true and what is fake. It's coming through to say the goddess of fortune holds this lotus flower, but where is it? You've thrown it away? So there is that little element of saying, I'm trying to identify, I'm trying to use my intelligence, but my mind is coming in and blurring it a bit. And here it is also mentioned in the purport that Srila Prabhupada says, one who is attracted by such desires becomes conditioned in this material world, and one who is not so attracted attains liberation. Right? And he says that the goddess of fortune cannot be enjoyed by anyone except Lord Vishnu. And here again, at the end of the purport, one immediately becomes a demon like Ravan, Hiranyakashipu and Kamsa. Because Ravan wanted to enjoy the goddess of fortune without worshipping Lord Ramachandra. So when again likening this as a metaphor to the material world, we want to enjoy the material world without the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Are we going to be successful? Not at all. So material intelligence is about material survival, but spiritual intelligence transcends this material world. So ultimately it's the choices that we make, And I always say this because, to be honest, living in a world where sense gratification is more easier now than ever before, social media has become such a thing where you just spend hours and hours and hours looking at things that dull your mind and senses, get you more engrossed in the material world, right? Whereas devotional service becomes a little bit more difficult to choose. But when we understand, and again I'm emphasizing the association of devotees, then we understand that there's no place for enjoyment in this material world. We should then tap into our intelligence more than ever, because we do not want to be annihilated like the demons. And this week, over the next few evenings, 6 evenings, different devotees will be speaking on the different parts of the Ramayana. And then we will be also able to have that chance to delve in and meditate on the lessons where we see that definitely things cannot be done. Sense gratification cannot be done in moderation. It cannot, it's either here or there. And once you get sucked in, it's a difficult path to come out of it. However, the path is there of the holy name. That is what is prescribed, because this suffering can be so deep, the desires in the heart are so strong, but we have to cultivate this knowledge and intelligence, where sinful activities are just there for pleasure that is fleeting, but devotional service is there for pleasure that will transcend that fleeting moments. So, even it is Srila Prabhupada describes, just to conclude, that even a little bit of devotional service, it's like the morning mist. When you have mist in the morning and the sun rises, it just takes away, covers just a little bit, you can see through the beauty of the sunrise. So even a little bit of devotional service uncovers that conditioning of the soul. Just a little bit. And once we start with that devotional service, we are able to actually uncover more and more, because we get a taste for the real pleasure in this world. So thank you so much, and let us learn that we cannot enjoy without the Supreme Personality of Godhead. This world is so temporary. And here this girl, beautiful girl, but beautiful again in the sense of what we are choosing to see. Right? Beautiful, we all, makeup is there, all the way we look now, it's, when we see these images online, it's all with photoshopped and all these AI facilities. The illusion has become so real. It's become so real, the illusion of the world, that sometimes this mind just gets so blurred that we really don't know what is true and what is untrue. So stick to the path that's given to us, the holy name, the simplest form, and there's so many opportunities for us to perform devotional service together. When we associate, that association is so important. So when we do this devotional service together, that's our time out. And we become, that's our real pleasure, that doesn't give us the slopes of highs and lows. So, thank you so much. If there's any comments, questions, corrections, realizations. Their Lordship Shri Radha Radhanath Ki Jai, Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai, Gaur Premanande, Hari Hari Bol, Hare Krishna.